Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo Chapter 6 details are here, so strap in and spoilers beware. Alright y'all, I'm sure you know the drill by now, but just as a reminder, we are dealing with rough translations here, so as always, I'll do my best to piece it together, but be sure to come on back on Sunday for the official drop. But this chapter begins right where we left off, with Maru having been knocked unconscious, but his third eye jutting open after this old man curse user had basically gotten the better of Sudugi and Yuka. And as this happens, all of these things start levitating around the area, which obviously catches the curse user and Sudugi's attention, with the curse user saying, "Wait, what's happening? The guy from earlier?" Because now Maru has gotten to his feet and is standing on business. But note, he's still unconscious. Only that third eye is open. Maru's third eye then blasts all the way open, just like this, except these eyes are closed still. And all of a sudden, the old man curse user starts to get super confused. And he's like, is this inducing some sort of state of confusion? I can't maintain my Shikigami. Then in this state of confusion, the old man seemingly stabs himself in the hand with his needle as we see Maru go and pick up a huge rock and baseball pitch that thing straight towards the old man. He does kind of regain himself to try and block the rock with his free needle, but the rock suddenly changes its projection, like its trajectory rather, and loops around the needle and then crushes the old man in the side of the head. As the old man gathers himself from that, Maru is suddenly directly behind him and lifts his leg up for a powerful kick that absolutely shatters the ground beneath it, as the old man barely manages to jump out of the way, but also gets pushed by the force of the explosion of this kick. Meanwhile, Sudugi dashes over to Yuka, who had gotten impaled with a needle last chapter, if you'll recall. So she's still just on the ground, maybe unconscious, but definitely in a bad spot, if not. And so he has gathered her body and is protecting her from the force of this kick. We then see that the old man, from the force of this kick, has been burst through a nearby wall and into a gymnasium. And in the chaos that came from that, we see that there's all these sports balls littered around now, like volleyballs and basketballs. And the old man is like, was he always this strong? No, something's off here. I should have finished him off. He then cut to Cross, Maru's twin brother, who is here. He's not in the fight, but he's on top of a nearby building watching this happen. And he thinks to himself, Maru, I didn't think he'd lose control this easily. But from now on, we can just count on the Earthlings on making the first move. This could turn into a good opportunity. And as long as the war begins, we have this guy on our side. And it's a panel of this guy. We then cut back to Maru, who is still unconscious, by the way, just walking down this old man in the gymnasium. And as he does, all of those basketballs and volleyballs start hovering in the air around him. And the old man is thinking to himself, what's going on? Anti-gravity? No, this is more likely a technique that deals with and can sever inertia. There's no point in overthinking this. I gotta calm down. But this is a time where I have nothing but to think. What do I do? We then see that in addition to all of these basketballs and volleyballs levitating, that everything in this area is going haywire. We see a big clock on the gymnasium wall and the hands are just spinning furiously. And then there appears to be maybe an alarm clock that's about to go off. It's a bit confusing, again, with rough translations onto what exactly is going on here, but there's a timer that begins and it goes 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And as this countdown is happening, the old man and Maru are just facing off and then they prepare to square up. And as soon as that timer hits 0, an alarm goes off and a song starts playing. And it's that classical musical scale song, the do, re, mi, fa, so, you guys know the one. So the two clash and Maru is ultra instinct right now because he's effortlessly dodging a needle and then landing a kick to the old man's gut. And we see that all of these volleyballs and basketballs are surrounding the old man, and then they start to explode, maybe because they've been infused with cursed energy, or I don't know why, but they're basically exploding, which catches this old man off guard and it distracts him. And the next thing we know, Maru is jutting behind the old man with a basketball in hand, and then he hurls it at the dude. So the old man's head recoils from the strike of the basketball, and in the same instant, Maru is upon him with just a flurry of blows straight to the dome. And it reminds me a lot of this Yuji Sukuna panel, except it's only only one way. Then at the end of this flurry of blows, Maru just crushes this guy through yet another wall, knocking him out of the gymnasium and into like a huge pool. So this must be some sort of like college or athletic campus or something that they're at. So the old man is like floating down into the water, looking absolutely rough, but he's not done yet. So he gathers himself and basically bursts out of the water as Maru is just coldly walking him down still. And then Maru sees him kind of float up in the air surrounded by this water, and he sticks out his hand and goes like this, and all of the water turns to ice. And this guy is like, what is this dude's technique? So at this point, the old man is now like frozen in a pillar of ice, pretty much unconscious, and Maru gears up for a massive strike, just like point blank on this defenseless dude. It's at this point that Sudugi intervenes at the last second and blocks Maru with his blade and with his hand behind the blade, like reinforcing it, and he can only barely stop Maru. Yet he and the old man still get kind of like knocked back, breaking the ice and kind of tumbling to the ground, and Maru like lands on the ground as well. You then see Sudugi start to gather himself, and he goes, "That's far enough, Maru." But then he looks up and he realizes that Maru is unconscious. We then cut to Cross, who is still watching all of this, and he thinks to himself, you know, it's fine if a Kotsu kills Maru, or if it's the other way around. We then cut back to Sudugi in his internal monologue, and he's thinking to himself, there are sorcerers and there are curse users, but it is never black and white. There are sorcerers who have done evil things, and there are curse users who still have compassion. And we're kind of darting back and forth between Cross and Sudugi. Because of the Rust translations, it's kind of hard to say who is kind of thinking what. But essentially, the idea here is they're thinking about how in the past, people always search for reasons to justify war. So Cross is thinking about, we need a reason to start this war. And Sudugi thinks, they'll always claim the reason is for a good reason, like for the sake of the young people and the innocent. They'll always search for any excuse. But that doesn't mean that we should just kill each other. And then he thinks back to his conversation with Maru from a few chapters ago, where Maru said, I just want to be friends. And Sudugi thinks, yeah, it's simple. We then cut back to Cross, who says, just finish him off already, Maru. Let's use this guy as the spark of war. However, we see that Maru hesitates, and I believe this is implying that Cross is like controlling his younger brother's body, or at least is like issuing it commands. But again, Maru hesitates. So Sudugi just starts screaming his name, saying, Maru, wake up! Wake up! And he just keeps screaming it, and he says, we are supposed to become friends, aren't we? You then see that Cross is like completely caught off guard by this show of emotion from Sudugi. Like, he doesn't even know what to make of it. He's just completely like shocked at this and kind of like moves without thinking, and is suddenly in front of Maru holding his hand up, preventing Maru from advancing on Sudugi. And then all of a sudden we hear two thuds. Sudugi just collapses on the ground, and so does Maru. And Cross just kind of is like, what just happened? Like, why was I just moved to do that? And he looks back and kind of looks at the collapsed both of the bodies, and that's where the chapter ends, with Cross having saved Sudugi. Y'all, this chapter was absolute gas. The paneling, the fighting, like Maru going Ultra Instinct, it was ballistic. Go check it out if you haven't. I wish I could just show the panels, but crazy. And then I love the way that ended. I just thought that Sudugi would wake up Maru, and that would be how this ends. But instead, Cross feels a little something in his heart, and maybe kind of even acts instinctually. It does seem as if he was like confused. Like he did, willingly help Sudugi. He kind of like puts his brother to sleep, but he still is like, why did I even do that? And I think what he's saying in the last panel is like, damn it. So I cannot wait to see where this goes. Anyways, let me know y'all's thoughts, but we'll dive a bit deeper on Sunday once everything is properly laid out. But as always, thank you for watching.